And welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today we're talking about the NBA. We're talking about the Eastern Conference, and I'm just doing a little preview as the NBA season gets ready to take off here next week. And so starting with the Eastern Conference and starting with the team that first comes to mind to me, and it's going to be the Philadelphia 76ers. We get the news that Paul George has a sprained knee, and then also too on top of that, Joel Embiid is not looking to play back-to-backs for this team. And so it looks pretty shaky for the Philadelphia 76ers, especially since they went out there and they invested into Paul George. Not a good start for this franchise. And now that just leaves a player like Tyrese Maxey to be out there on a night-to-night basis. You wonder now, can the Philadelphia 76ers, who had championship aspirations, even make it into the playoffs? And furthermore, can they go deep into the playoffs? So that is going to be a huge question as the NBA season gets ready to start. Next up, the New York Knicks. I think that the New York Knicks, they are looking to win a championship. They have pushed everything in. They went out there. They got Karl Anthony Towns. They brought Mikal Bridges over as well. And to go along with Jalen Brunson, they have OG over here. So this team is absolutely loaded. And I think really for the Knicks, it's going to be about staying healthy. I think that that was really the key to them last year. They were poised to continue on, and then the injuries started to pile up. Is this the year that Tom Thibodeau can push through with this roster? He can manage it enough to where these injuries do not pile up at critical times and they're able to push through. I think the Knicks can possibly do so. They have enough on the roster to possibly challenge the Boston Celtics. And so that leads us to the next point with the Boston Celtics. The Celtics look just as good as they did last year. I think that they've gotten even more experience from a coaching standpoint. I think that now that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have gotten to the NBA championship and then have pushed that door open and got a title, I think that they're hungry for another one. This Celtics team is going to be right there at the end. This is going to be a team that you're certainly going to be talking about. The Indiana Pacers. And so they had a very good year last year. Tyrese Halliburton had a terrific year, really had this team playing up-tempo, fast pace. They pretty much have everybody back. And the question for the Pacers is, can they get better defensively? I think that that was really the issue for them. They could score with the best of them, but they couldn't stop anybody. And so at some point, you have to get some defensive stops. You look at Golden State and the way that they've been able to really make it happen with that fast pace and play that they play with. But at some point, you have to be able to defend, and that's where you need that with the Pacers. Somebody's got to step up. I'm not sure where they're going to get that defensive presence. Didn't necessarily go out in free agency and address that, but that is something that the Pacers are going to have to look at. Next up, as we look forward at teams that maybe make some noise here, the Miami Heat. I think that the Miami Heat are poised to get back into this thing. I think it's all going to depend on Jimmy Butler and his health. Obviously, Pat Riley has challenged him, and Jimmy Butler has said that he has to come out and make it happen. This is a contract year, and they're going to depend on a lot of young players like Jaime Jaquez Jr., a player that I loved coming out of UCLA, and then also to Khalil Ware, who I think was one of the better centers coming out of this year's NBA draft. I think he's poised to have a very good year. I think him and Bam are going to work very well together. Tyler Hero, he's going to have an extensive role this year. He's going to have to stay healthy. Duncan Robinson, players like that are going to have to stretch the floor. And so I think Miami is going to be in a good position as long as Jimmy Butler is healthy. And this team is slowly transitioning over. They may make a move to get another player over, or they may even trade off Jimmy Butler. Who knows? There has been that noise that possibly could happen, but I don't think so. Cleveland Cavaliers, they went out, they re-signed Evan Mobley. They went ahead and they've gotten Spider locked up as well with Donovan Mitchell. And so the Cleveland Cavs, now they're looking to make some noise. Obviously, they got out of the first round last year, ran into a tough Boston team. And so I don't know if they've done enough to make enough noise or even make it to the third round of the Eastern Conference playoff series. But I think that they're going to be good enough. I think one of the things that really hurt them was injuries down the stretch. And so now, as we look at some of these younger teams in the Eastern Conference, you got the Charlotte Hornets, you got the Brooklyn Nets, Atlanta Hawks, the Bulls, Wizards, and Orlando. And so I think Orlando is poised to take another step forward. I do like the fact that they went out there and they got KCP over from the Nuggets. I think that that experience certainly is going to help them. Obviously, he can knock down some jump shots too, and he's not going to allow just a player like Donovan Mitchell to score 40 plus points in 2 or 3 consecutive games or whatever it was where he just went nuts. And so that is going to help this team. I'd expect for them to take a leap forward. They were right there in game 7 versus the Cavs. So I think that they for sure go another round in the playoffs this year. The Wizards, I think that it's going to be more of a rebuild for them. They do have Alex Sarr over there, but they just really have to find a direction. The Brooklyn Nets, absolutely, I think it is going to be a rebuild for them. With the Atlanta Hawks, I don't expect them to be very good, even though I do like the #1 pick that they have over there. Got a chance to look at him during the preseason. And I must say, I think that him and Trae Young are actually going to work well. I was wondering about the dynamic there, but I think the Atlanta Hawks might have something there. And then with the Charlotte Hornets, this is a team that I expect to be in that play-in situation. Now that they have another year with Brandon Miller, they have LaMelo Ball healthy. I think that this team is going to be exciting enough to get into a play-in situation. The Chicago Bulls, nobody really knows. And, covering this team, love Modest Buzelis, love a lot of these young players on this team, but they have a mess. They don't have too many front court players, to play in the post. They're trying to play a style in which the team is really not necessarily built on. And they still have some players that have been all-stars and such that can help this team. And so it's like a mix between one day they're going to be in the play-in situation, the next day they might be in the lottery. Who knows with this team? And so it's a mystery. Wouldn't surprise me if they're in the play-in. It wouldn't surprise me if they're out of the playoffs, but I don't think that they're going to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference. I think that that might go to the Detroit Pistons. Don't feel like that they've done enough to improve that roster. And lastly, I forgot about the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks, championship aspirations. Don't think that they've necessarily gone out and made the adjustments that they need to be a better defensive team. That was one of the things that they really, really struggled with last year. And I get that they have a full season with Doc Rivers. That was a strange situation where they fired their head coach in the middle of the season for Doc Rivers. So they have no excuses at this point. You have a full year with Dame. You have a full year with Doc Rivers. And I get that everybody had some stuff going on going into that season, but I don't know if Milwaukee has done enough to make it to the NBA Finals. And so let me know in the comments what you're thinking. We're going to be talking about the Western Conference next. That's the Eastern Conference, my loose thoughts about this Eastern Conference. This is Real Talk Sports with Rico. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.